Hi everyone, in this video we're going to talk about the chat feature that's built into Teams. Chats can be done several ways. You can have a chat with an individual, you can have a chat with a group, you can even have a chat with people who are not in your own organization. The nice way to think about a chat is basically a way to message each other, like an instant message and so forth, that's in the one application in Teams. A chat does not have to be associated with a team. It actually kind of runs as its own little entity, so that's completely individual of the teams themselves. So with that, let's start by going into how to create a chat. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is show you how to start a chat with an individual. So very straightforward. What you're going to do is just anywhere that you're in Teams, you can actually just click on that person's icon on their name or anything like that, and it's just this first button right here, this chat button. And when you click on that, it's going to just start a chat window with that person. You can type anything you want. They'll see it right away. If they have a notification, they'll also see a notification pop up. The next thing that I'm going to show you is how to start a chat with a group of people. Sometimes the easiest way to do that is just by creating a calendar invite. So when we create a calendar invite, you're going to create the calendar and you're going to invite multiple people. Now you remember seeing this from an earlier video, that you can just add people into the calendar invite, and when you do that, it'll add them into that meeting. So once you do that, you can close it out. And simply clicking on that calendar invite, you can do chat with participants, and it's going to start a chat with everybody who's in that meeting. Again, that can be both internal and external to your organization. There are limitations when you're chatting with somebody from outside your organization, and we'll get into those in a little bit. So when you do a chat with the meeting, it's going to be exactly the same thing that I just showed you. You're going to have a meeting, you'll be in it, and as you're in the meeting, you can actually you'll have the chat feature like we have now. So let's say you're in a meeting. So when you show the conversations while you're in the meeting, this is actually your chat right here. So the nice part is when you're in the meeting, your chat is actually part of the meeting as well, and it'll be there when you're done. So if we type and when we leave the meeting and we look, we can see that the notes are still in the meeting from that chat session as well. So even after the meeting is done, you'll see that the chat session still exists and it still lives on, and the people who are in that meeting can continue to chat about the meeting, about the topic of the meeting, and everything that was in the meeting. And again, this exists for both internal and external from your company. So you can see you can keep going back, but the other thing that you can do is the people can actually join back into the meeting again just by hitting this join button. So you don't even have to like recreate or resend it to everybody from the meeting itself. So another way to start a new chat is just right from this button right here. They put it right up top. You just hit that button and it just starts a new chat right away. So you can just type in the name of the people you want. I will say sometimes this gets a little finicky. Hopefully Microsoft is going to fix it. Especially works very well for internal people, but I have yet to see it work really reliable with people outside of your organization. Again, if you want to do that, for right now, you might want to stick with the meeting chat or a meeting invite to go with it. All right, so now that you have a chat set up with somebody or a group of people, I want to show you a couple things that you can do within that chat window itself. So one of the things that you can do is you can actually hover over and you'll see this little icon pop up. And that icon allows you to pop the chat out to a new window. So you can actually move it around your screen and actually have it run as its own little entity. So you don't have to have it hidden in, you don't have to have it just part of the actual Teams channel. So let's say you want to have it off to the side, you can do that. The one thing I will show you though is you'll see some of these do not have a little pop-out window, and that depends on how the chat was done. If it's strictly an internal meeting chat, then it'll work great and you'll be able to pop it out. But if you're communicating sometimes with the outside or certain types of chat, you actually can't pop that window out. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to add people into a chat. So if you're having a chat with somebody else and you think to yourself, oh, hey, this person would be great to be part of this chat. I'd love to bring them in. So what you do is you simply go up here and add them in the chat as well. So you just type them in, they'll get an invite, it'll show up right in their teams automatically, and now they'll be part of the chat window. I'm going to show you something else as well. Now you'll notice this is a one-on-one chat, so there's certain things going on here. But if we go back up to a chat that was started by a meeting, there's a few different things that show up in here that were not part of the one-on-one chat. I'm going to go back to the first thing we talked about, is adding a person to a meeting. When you add a person to a meeting that is a chat that's part of a meeting, you'll actually see now you have some new options. You can actually decide if you want to include them in the history of that chat, which is really kind of interesting. So you can actually say, hey, yeah, not only do I want them part of the new discussion, I want them to see all the previous discussions that are going on. The next thing you'll see up here on the application when you're in a chat for a meeting is you're going to see a whiteboard. This shows up again when you're in a meeting chat, and it's particularly handy when you're doing this from some kind of mobile device or a notebook with a touch screen or something with a touch screen. But essentially you can use this literally, as it says, like a whiteboard, and now it's part of the meeting itself. Over here you can see that you also have meeting notes. So when you take meeting notes can be a file, they can be general notes that you take that you want to be static to the meeting as well. There's different ways that you can add in. Maybe you want to put a Word document in there, maybe you want to have some kind of typical note or something like that. You can actually just put them right in here and they'll be static. And of course, as you can see, you can format them, do things that you want. It's almost like if you've seen the wiki part of the Teams, it's like the wiki part of it. Next thing I'll talk about is files. You can actually share files as part of the meeting. However, I'm going to make this as a big caveat. As of right now, sharing files in a meeting does not share it with people who are outside your organization. So if you're having a meeting, if you're having a chat with somebody, with a group of people who are both in your organization and outside your organization, only the people that are inside your organization are going to have access to that file. So it's a security setting. At some point, Teams might change that, but right now, when you share a file, it's really only going to work with the people who are inside your organization. So you're best to share that file through other means if you're using it for some kind of group collaboration that involves people outside your company. All right, so next thing I want to talk about is the different options that you have within the different chats. So I know I typically have several different chat sessions going on at the same time, and that causes a couple different interesting issues. First and foremost, the issue is that sometimes you'll have a chat session where the people are just really very chatty, or they go through a spurt where there's a lot of communications on a particular topic, and you might be in the middle of doing something else. So one of the things that you can do on that is you can actually mute that. And when you mute that, it'll stop the notifications from coming. It doesn't remove you from any chats. You can still see them and see that they're coming in. It'll just stop the notification icon from coming up. Let's say you don't want to see the chat anymore. You can actually just hide that chat and it'll get rid of it. So if we go through, we can see that all of a sudden that chat just disappears. You can also see that the meetings have different options on their chat than the individuals. So the individual ones, you can actually have favorites, you can notify when new chats are available, and you can mark certain ones as unread. And like I said, you can also pop out individual chats. Okay, let's move into the actual messaging area itself, and let's see how we send the actual chat messages. So obviously, one of the main things you can do is just start typing. And the message will show up. You can also use an @sign, and the @sign will allow you to actually mention certain people directly in your chat. So again, that's very handy when you have multiple people in the chat and you're kind of having almost a one-on-one conversation with with a certain person inside the own chat itself. Or somebody asked a question, hey, how do you do this? Other people replied with something else, and you say, oh, yep, this is how you want to reply back to that initial person. You can obviously, as you go along, you can see that down here there's certain things like the formatting of the text that you can have. You can set the urgency of the message, attachments. Keep in mind the same thing with attachments that I said before. They're really only going to work with people inside your organization. You can have different emojis in your message itself. You can have animated GIFs. You can have static GIFs that they come with the set. So another thing that you can do in the chat area is you can actually just paste actual images in there as part of your chat. You can say, and so you can type messages. You can actually, and that's just a regular copy and paste for images. Another thing that you can do in here is you can actually just paste a website link itself, and it will actually post, and if it's available, it'll actually show a little snippet of everybody to everybody of the website itself. All right, another thing that you can do is you can actually interact with the messages themselves. You can simply hover over it. You can click on different emojis depending on what you want to do, and when you click on that emoji, it'll show up on here, and then when you hover over it, it'll show who reacted to that particular post or message. Another thing that you can do is you can take an individual message and you can actually manipulate that individual message itself with various options like editing it, deleting it. Okay, so that's really it for the basic functions of the chat feature of Microsoft Teams. Don't forget, one of the key things is that when you load Teams on your mobile app, these chat features work really well as far as notifications and messaging, and it makes it a very usable application. Have a great day.